Have you ever noticed that almost everything around you suggests that you could be doing slightly better? Better routine, better mindset, better productivity system, better sleep, better organization, better hobbies even. Even my water bottle now seems to want to optimize me. It has the times on it for which I should be drinking certain amounts of water on it, right? And I've been thinking about this lately, not like critically, not cynically, just very curiously. Hey there, quilter. Welcome to Loose Threads and Stitches podcast, where we sit down, we slow down, and we gently explore the stories that we are living inside right now. For the next few weeks, we're going to be stepping into something I'm calling the enough chapter. Okay, it's going to be a short, limited series inside the Loose Threads and Stitches podcast, where we gently are going to explore kind of what it means to feel finished in a world that constantly suggests that we could be more. Okay, and this isn't meant to be in like a heavy way. It's not a political way. It's just a quietly noticing way. Okay, and I had a series in my podcast a while back that was called the Get Out of Your Own Way series. And, the listeners really seemed to respond to that. They really seemed to enjoy those like quiet reflections on your own. And so this is just kind of a continuation on that in a slightly different manner. Okay. If you enjoy the conversations that feel more like sitting on the couch with tea and sitting in a classroom, make sure that you are following my podcast. And if something resonates with you, please feel free to share this podcast with a friend. It is always, always, always appreciated. Okay, let's talk about the quiet hum of improvement. So, a little bit of background. I studied marketing in college, and one of the first things that you learn is something that is very, very simple. People rarely take action when they feel completely satisfied. They tend to act when they see a gap between where they are and where they could be. That's not malicious or anything, okay? Don't get the wrong idea. It's structural. We live in an environment that values growth, and growth requires momentum. Momentum often requires desire, right? And desire usually begins with highlighting a possibility. So if you feel content with your planner and the way that your calendar is structured, you're probably not going to be shopping for a new one, right? If your routine feels ideal, you're not going to be searching for upgrades. So naturally, messaging emphasizes what could be improved in your life. Improvement isn't bad, right? It's not bad. Growth can be beautiful. Tools can be helpful, and refinement can be very, very joyful. But for many of us, when that messaging is constant, when it's in the very air that we breathe, it can start to feel like we are perpetually unfinished. No one is saying you are not enough, right? But the atmosphere can quietly whisper, you could be more. And more isn't wrong, right? More isn't wrong, but constant more, it could feel exhausting. So have you ever felt that way? You could tell me. You're welcome to answer out loud to this podcast and contribute to this conversation. You're also welcome to add your own thoughts down in the comment section down below. That low level hum of, I could be doing this better. Now I'm talking to you, but I'm very much speaking of myself in this as well. And that's where all of this reflection is coming from, is even when nothing is actually wrong, okay? Even when you're okay, even when you're doing well. And here's the part that I find really interesting. When I sit down to quilt or make something with my hands, nothing is asking me to upgrade myself. The fabric doesn't measure me. The needle doesn't compare me. The pattern doesn't suggest a better version of myself. It just asks me to show up, right? There's something quietly relieving about that when you make that connection. Making doesn't require optimizing your identity. It doesn't require branding yourself. It doesn't even require tracking your progress against someone else's. Those are rules that don't exist. Okay. It making simply exists in the present. And I think that's why creativity can feel like rest. It can feel like a safe haven, not because it fixes us, because it, I think it stops measuring us. And I think, let me say this clearly. I don't think the world is trying to harm us. I do think that we live in patterns that reward momentum, and momentum often relies on highlighting what is possible. So you see, like the big picture thing that I'm referring to today is when possibility is constant, it can quietly turn into a pressure on us. And when that pressure becomes normal, we don't question it anymore. We don't stop and ask why. We internalize it. We assume that the feeling of unfinishedness is a personal attack, right? It's a personality flaw instead of maybe just exposure. Exposure to messaging designed to keep us moving, okay? It's not evil. It's just moving. But humans aren't meant to feel like projects forever. I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm never finished in my life, in my days, in my calendar. Like it's just finish one thing and boom, immediately on to the next. The list is never done. The to-do list gets longer and longer. We're meant to build, rest, enjoy, and pause. We are meant to finish things and maybe even feel finished ourselves sometimes. Like, you are allowed that rest, right? I really think it's worth looking into from a backed off, like big picture view. Okay. So as we move into this enough chapter together, here is what we are not going to do. Okay. We're not rejecting growth. We are not rejecting tools. We are not rejecting ambition. We are simply becoming aware of the environment. Okay. Because sometimes relief doesn't come from changing absolutely everything. It comes from understanding the air that you are breathing in and out every single day and realizing that maybe low level hum of like not quite there yet, that just kind of constantly vibrates in your body, isn't entirely coming from inside you. Okay. And I want to leave you with something simple today, a sentence that I've been turning over quietly, just thinking again and again and again, and trying to remind myself of again and again and again, is that you are allowed to decide when you feel finished. Okay? Not the constantly moving target, not the trends, not the algorithms. You are the only one who gets to decide when you're finished. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to improve, but you're also allowed to say, for today, I'm done. I'm complete. I feel complete, right? You are the only one who gets to decide that. Next week, we're going to talk about how enough became such a moving target in the first place. There's a lot of like science and stuff that is behind that from the world point of view. And, I'm gonna be honest, I love this stuff, okay? I love this study of it and like the psychology behind it, all of it. And I find that when people understand the facts behind it, it becomes a little bit more easy to digest, and it becomes easier to accept that you're not always inadequate and like your thoughts aren't always your own, okay? So we're gonna dive into that, but I want you to know that we're going to dive into that just a little bit at a time. It's not going to be anything heavy or anything. That's not how I do things, But until then, I want you to sit with this thought for a little bit. Maybe, just maybe, you are allowed to feel finished. The way you are right now, nothing else required. So I will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the Loose Threads and Stitches podcast. I'm Kristen from ICStarsQuilting.com. If you have a moment, please go ahead and make sure that you are subscribed to my channel on YouTube. That helps grow this audience and spread these messages to other people. Also, please, please, please leave those 5-star reviews on Spotify podcast and Apple Podcasts. I really, really appreciate that with all of my heart. Thank you for helping me spread the message of positivity and cheerleaderness of quilting and joy into the quilting world. I love you. I'll see you next time. Bye.